Of all the media outlets to have launched in the last decade, Morning Brew has had one of the most impressive growth trajectories. Not only did it build its main newsletter to millions of subscribers, but it also spun off multiple B2B niche verticals and has had enormous success on platforms like YouTube and TikTok. So it's not surprising that when 3 of its early employees left to launch their own media company, there were plenty of high-profile creators eager to work with them. Under the banner of Smooth Media Creative Holdings, these alums have built out an influencer marketing agency and also their own niche outlets. In a recent interview, co-founder Josh Kaplan delved deeper into Smooth Media's strategy and discussed why the company decided to acquire a 30-year-old B2B media brand. Hello, I'm Simon Owens, and this is The Business of Content, the show about how publishers create, distribute, and monetize their digital content. If you want to listen to an audio version of this show, subscribe to The Business of Content wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're a longtime fan of this show, you're probably aware that it's not monetized with ads. I'm entirely reliant on paid subscriptions to my Substack newsletter to fund this show. If you want me to keep delivering you interviews with the world's most successful media entrepreneurs, then subscribe for just $50 a year. Go to simonowens.substack.com. That's simonowens.substack.com. Or just Google the words Simon Owens and newsletter. Okay, let's jump into the interview. Hey Josh, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be on.
So we're here to talk about this company that you co-founded called Smooth Media, but I'd love to maybe just talk about what went up to launching it and what your experience was beforehand. Like you are a former employee of Morning Brew, and it's kind of interesting because I feel like a lot of former Morning Brew company employees have gone on to launch their own companies. How did you start working for them?
I went to the University of Michigan. I became friends with Austin and Alex just very naturally. Austin and I were the same year back. We graduated in 2017, which now makes me feel a little bit older. And they had started the company. They had started writing the daily newsletter. It started to grow among Michigan students. It started to grow within the Big Ten, within other colleges. And I started to have a little bit of free time towards my senior year and started to get pulled into the vortex. I already had a full-time job as a technology consultant and took that job, but quickly became a lot more excited about the Morning Brew journey and was able to quit that job pretty shortly after and join as the Morning Brew is going from the daily business newsletter to, hey, what else is this media business going to do? So I was able to come in, one of the earlier employees, help launch tech brew, retail brew, marketing brew. So we started to go niche into other professional segments within our larger audience. And then I also got to help get us into multimedia with podcasting and other shows and events that we were able to pull off. So I had this front row seat to such an amazing time, got to learn so much about media, knew nothing before that. And after the brew got sold to Business Insider in 2020, couple of colleagues and I were looking around and we were saying, hey, there's a lot more going on in this world. What else can we do? And that became the inception point for Smooth Media.
Yeah, so were they kind of like celebrities on the campus of these entrepreneurs, or was it not that really a big deal to the average college kid?
It was a cool newsletter, but this was like
Yeah,
a finance newsletter. It was really
yeah,
to help people. At the time, there was a version where it was a lot more about helping people prepare for their investment banking interviews. So cool within the business school for sure. And I think as you go to other parts of campus, it might not have been as celebrity-esque. And it was smaller for a bit, but the people that knew really loved it. And it was a really awesome brand that was so organic that was being built around it. But I wish we could say that that they were celebrities in that aspect. I think that the football players at Michigan get a lot more limelight than the early stage entrepreneurs.
yeah. It's interesting you worked on the expansion into like the niche stuff and some of the multimedia stuff. A few years ago I wrote this like piece. It was like titled something like is the morning brew model crumbling or something like that. And it was really just about how kind of the limits of growth that any media company can have through just pure aggregation and curation of content. And what Morning Brew did with like hiring like actual reporters and going into niches and then launching a YouTube channel. I felt like that was like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Is that in order to keep growing, you do have to kind of branch out and do something beyond curation. But I don't remember which co-founder it was. Maybe Austin. They took it as like a criticism against them, and he apparently like pinned my my blog post to the top of his email or something like that as like motivation. And but I really wasn't really criticizing them at all. I was kind of just talking about, this new direction that they were going in, which it sounds like you were running. So like what you did, to kind of summarize for people that didn't know, or what Morning Brew did, is they had this main newsletter, and then they decided to use that as like a launching pad basically for a lot of other franchises, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we thought that the general 5 minutes in the morning broad business news was a great product, but we were always, what I really liked about Austin and Alex and how they established the Morning Brew ethos as a media company was very audience centric. And so we're
Hmm.
thinking like, what else do our readers need? And if you're in marketing, you want to go a bit deeper on marketing related topics. The jokes you make in the newsletter are more for the marketing crowd. And so we could customize it more to pack a better punch. And then on the flip side, from a business model perspective, if you're a marketing SaaS company, you're willing to pay a much higher premium if you know that you're getting in front of a targeted group of marketing professionals that are the real users of your product. And so I think from both audience satisfaction and brand satisfaction, being able to go niche off of that much larger multi-million email base, what was a really, really strong strategy.
Yeah, and it allowed you kind of have the best of both sides of B2C and B2B, because like the main Morning Brew newsletter was, I guess you would call it a prosumer, kind of like the straddling that divide between B2B and B2C, but like these niche newsletters were pure B2B, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and then also Morning Brew has since launched franchises with, is his name Dan Toomey, or what's the TikTok guy?
Yeah, Dan Toomey is still over
Yeah,
there. I
yeah.
left almost 4.5 years ago now, so he was one
Oh,
of the
okay.
people that I'd kind of met as I was on my way out.
Yeah.
But they've done such a great job growing. I just haven't been as hands-on as I was when I was actually working there,
Oh,
obviously.
were you working on like podcast products, or you left before they
Yeah, yeah,
started
yeah.
doing that
We
other stuff?
we launched Business Casual, which Kinsey Grant was the host of. She was prior to that a newsletter writer, but today she's one of my co-founders here at Smooth. I'd
Hmm.
helped Alex launch a podcast. So we were starting to get our feet wet with the other platforms outside of newsletter. We were really disciplined and focused to stay in that newsletter specific world for many, many years. But now you look at the company now and they're everywhere, and it's amazing how much they've grown on all platforms.
Yeah. So you left in 2020.
2020, 2021, that like holiday transition is when I left and then started my own company.
So like, what was the idea with your company? Because like, one of the things you're most famous for is working with, the YouTubers Colin and Samir to kind of co-launch a newsletter with them. But I know you also like wholly own your own another newsletter, and then you also do kind of like influencer marketing and stuff like that. So what was the original
Hmm.
idea for the company?
The original thesis was that creators are growing dramatically and building these amazing audiences. They're some of the most creative storytellers on the internet, and that there's still a huge opportunity within business media to help engage, empower, and educate professionals at large. And I really have always loved reading the news, being up to date, getting to use the internet and YouTube to go learn all sorts of stuff. And so I wanted to see how we could continue to do a lot of valuable work in those two domains. Right after I left Morning Brew, I was lucky enough to be introduced to Colin and Smear and a couple other really cool creators within more of a business and technology world. And I started as a consultant. Said, hey, let me come in, let me learn more about your operation, let me see how I can help you, whether it's helping you hire the right team of editors and producers, whether it's helping you think about your advertising strategy and revenue models. Let me get in there and start making things happen. Fast forward 2021, we end up working with Colin and Samir, launching the Published Press because they were very focused on the creator economy as an audience, professional creators. Where do they look to for news, resources, community? They are amazing on their YouTube channel. And we said, let's also launch a brand that can live next to them, that can, send out a newsletter that isn't written by them. That became the Published Press. We've been sending that consistently for the past 4 years. We're hosting our first major conference this fall. That was a really awesome business. And through that experience, it came very obviously that there are other creators around the world that we can run a similar model with, where we help them really scale on the business side to reach their full potential and make the biggest impact in whatever niche it is, whether it's cybersecurity, outer space, whatever it is. We get to work with really cool creators. Not all of them have side brands like the published press, but that, to your point about influencer marketing, we now, and I'll maybe deliver it a bit more clearly, Smooth Media represents the best knowledge creators on the internet, and we represent about 30 creators to help them scale. And then we have those two business media brands, the Published Press and another one called Energy Central, which I'm happy to talk about as well. But we have this growing portfolio that allows us to drive a really big impact within these knowledge areas on the internet.
And then the published press, like that's something, it's not, you don't do that as a consulting, like you actually own equity in that newsletter, right?
Yes, that's a joint
Mhm.
venture between Smooth and Colin and Smear.
And then, like, it sounds like one of the big pain points that you're kind of solving for is like, especially with like video creators, is like they're really good at creating video, but they don't own that audience on YouTube beyond like, YouTube really owns that relationship. And you help scale up Morning Brew, and it's like, hey, I know you offer other services other than that, but like, I helped build Morning Brew like with email signups you can own your audience, and like what if you had like a more regular like like editorial product that was coming out so that you're kind of diversifying your audience, owning it, and then monetizing it in a different way? Is that kind of like the value proposition there that kind of differentiates you from maybe like your average influencer marketing firm?
It's certainly part of it, and we believe in being multi-channel and the benefits of newsletter. We also really love YouTube. YouTube is an amazing platform, which I have learned over the past couple of years because we really were not that big on it when I originally was at Morning Brew.
Hmm.
And really, what we want to say is we understand the playbook for knowledge creators better than anybody. If you're speaking to a professional audience, if you're covering the news about the latest stuff in AI, if you're trying to grow within that space and make that a career, let us be your business partners and take stuff off your plate. And so, whether it's YouTube, whether it's newsletter, whether it's more business oriented or hiring, we want to holistically say we know and we're studying and adding to that playbook every single day. So it's become a bit wider than more of that newsletter part where we started when I left Morning Brew. It's now been a couple of years and we've been able to learn different parts of the internet.
And then for the published press, like you're responsible for basically the entire like production of the newsletter. Like you are the one who employ the writers and stuff like that, and like and you kind of push the editorial direction of the newsletter.
Yeah, I'd say we are the operating backbone. So we help make sure that there's a newsletter that goes out every time. We've hired two amazing writers who never miss an issue. Hannah and Sid are amazing at what they do. And then Colin and Samir, when they're not traveling as much during a week, they can lean in and say, hey, this story might be able to be better that way, or I can open up access and introduce you to my friend who's the feature of that story. But if they are busy hosting an event with a really cool company, the whole published press system can continue to go. And that's kind of the beauty of it for a creator to being able to have that business that they don't have to personally manage day in and day out. And so we think about the books, the revenue, the growth trajectory. We get to do a lot more of the behind the scenes work, and they get to come in and evangelize it and make sure it's still super authentic to their audience.
Yeah, they made a big announcement about it when it launched, and I think like they said it drove like 50,000 subscribers very quickly, like within a week or two after it launched. What else can you say about the audience size and stuff like that?
Yeah, we're in the six figures. We're not sharing the subscriber count because we're trying to
Yeah.
hit a new milestone and then make a little bit of an event around that. But
Hmm.
the open rate is, between 35 and 40% on a given day. We keep the list pretty clean. And it's really cool to see who's reading it. It's a pretty diverse group among top creators, people who work at platforms. And we've had events over the past couple of years to bring those people together in real life. And that's been a really amazing thing to see from a community and a business perspective, that we don't have to market the events anywhere else other than the newsletter. If we say, hey, we're doing a coffee with creators meetup event, we can add it a couple times at the top of the newsletter and we know it's going to be oversubscribed. And so I feel like that's like a sign of how much trust that community has in us, between having like the consistency of the newsletter and the Colin and Smear participation as them being like the figureheads of the community.
And then it's distributed on Beehive, right? Which is another Morning Brew alum.
Yes, of course. Yeah, of course we had to use Tyler's Beehive products. We're big fans. We've been big fans for a while, and it's gotten us pretty far, and they continue to make it better every day.
And other than the events, which we'll talk about soon, how is it monetized? Just mainly through sponsorships?
Yeah, yeah. Basically, everything we do business wise is funded through sponsorships and brand partnerships.
And that's like companies that want to work that want to reach like professional creators or aspiring creators and stuff like that.
Yes,
hmm
exactly.
And then what are you doing in the events? Like you have like a big conference or what are you doing with the events side?
Yeah, mostly it's been meetups, which are fairly low lift and
hmm
easy for us, but we're gearing up for a 400 person conference style event in Brooklyn in September called Press Publish NYC. And
hmm
it's going to be one track of amazing content, the same quality that you'd expect from the Colin and Smear side and the published press side. And tickets go on sale soon. It's one of our bigger, more lofty projects when it comes to like events, and I can't wait to see it come together. We've been working really hard on it, so I think that's going to be a really great different event within the creator economy circuit, different from the VidCons, different from the Vid Summits, the information summits. We have a little bit of a different take on what we're going to build for everybody. And again, from a business perspective, brands want access to these top creators, and so we're able to bring those brands in through that experience and make it another great part of the business model.
hmm And then you acquired an energy newsletter, is that
Yeah,
or what is it
it's
a
more of
forum?
a
It's a community forum or something like
it's a
that, right?
forum. They have a couple 100,000 emails. They've got a YouTube channel, LinkedIn. They were really everywhere, and they've been. So sorry, take a step back. We acquired Energy Central last summer. It is a media and community business for the power industry. So if you work at a utility, if you're in that world, how do you stay up to date? How do you meet other people? You come to Energy Central. It's been around for 30 years, so it's technically older than I am. And
What
Steve
was
and
it originally?
they were a magazine for a brief period of time, and they were
hmm
one of the first to say, "Hey, we got to get on this thing called the internet." And they said they used to have a satellite dish on their roof. It was a very different technology stack when those things were starting, but Steve Drazga, the original founder, was incredibly forward thinking about being digital, being community oriented, and they have this amazing recognition within the space. And he wanted to sell the business because he was looking to retire. We are in this growth stage where we want to find more of these really interesting professional areas and grow our portfolio. So it became a really natural handoff. And for the past 9 months, we've been working on that business to scale it. But I like to say that Publish Press and Energy Central are very similar businesses operationally, organizationally. It's just very different target audiences, but these are still people who are leaning on this brand to be better at their jobs, build a community, feel engaged in what they do.
Well, the site definitely looks a little old school, like it was designed a while ago. Is it like using some kind of like old forum, like community forum software or something like that?
It's fully custom. I'm not
Oh,
kidding.
okay.
Steve was really amazing at building product. We're switching over the next couple of weeks, so I'm not sure when this is going to release, but check out Energy Central. You'll know if it looks a little bit older. You'll know if it looks a little bit newer. But yeah, we're revamping a lot of the insides of this company because it just there was time for a little bit of a refresh. But again, it's the
Mhm.
same. Hey, how do we just serve this audience relentlessly?
So the most like forward thing of it, like the thing that people might know it most for is the message board or what like how are most people interacting with this company?
Honestly, probably the newsletters. The newsletters
Okay.
send the most traffic to the website. The
hmm
newsletters are daily, there's weekly, there's different sub networks, whether you're more interested in energy technology or power generation. And a lot of that email has just continued to swell because it's been, again, just so consistent. There's so much that goes out. So we're moving some of that to Beehive. We're revamping it so we take in a bit more of our Morning Brew DNA and imbue it with that more modern delivery, but there are tons of people and the email list is super strong. So we know we have this direct access to people in the industry.
And like the article, like there are articles published to the website too, or is it all the content mainly in the newsletters?
It's a mix of both. We have
Yeah.
some syndication service. We get about 100 to 150 organic pieces of content uploaded by the community, and that might be sharing a news link, asking a question, sharing a white paper. We don't let it be like promotional. So if you're like selling something, you have to buy ads, but it's similar to like a LinkedIn. And so when we send our newsletters, there's different community roundups and there's different news roundups that hopefully bring the best of what Energy Central has again to that same audience.
And to access that content, like they have to be like a registered, logged in user.
Right now, but in the new system, just put it in an email and you can get whatever you want. We want to bring down that friction. So as long as you're interested, we can start getting you into our ecosystem.
Yeah. And so you said like there's some user generated content. Is that like mostly in the message boards or can you like launch a blog on the site? Like how is that dynamic?
Mm, Mostly just posting, more like a
Uh-huh.
message board where you can just
Yeah.
pick your network. You can pick whether it's like a discussion type of post or your own article that you want to share.
Uh-huh.
And we have a really amazing community manager. His name is Matt. And so he has real relationships with a lot of these people who are posting consistently and getting them to say, hey, here's an interesting topic. You should post that. I saw you put that on LinkedIn. You should bring it here. And so there is like a real ambassador style community of people that like driving this conversation.
And like based on what I can tell from an outsider, like it looks like a 2000s era forum, like where people can start new message threads and then people comment on that. That's kind of the dynamic, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then so how are you monetizing this site?
Marketing services as well, selling
Mhm.
advertisements. There's a really big vendor ecosystem in the utility world right now. You can imagine drones to check out power lines, new power lines themselves, consulting services. And these are companies that need help getting in front of utility leaders. And so we're helping them create that content, distribute that content, do webinars. Webinars are super popular on our platform. We get a great uh, rate of people showing up and converting as leads. So we're within that world, and there's a healthy media ecosystem within the utility world. There's Utility Dive, Power Amp Magazine, T&D World. So there's a lot. I went to my first energy conference a couple months ago, and you walk the hall, and you're like, oh my goodness, here's what we do digitally. When you see all these booths set up, and you're like, that biggest booth is one of the biggest advertisers. These smaller ones are up and coming. How do we get them involved in some more entry level marketing services? Uh, it's one of the favorite things that I like about this business is that whenever we go into a new area, I get to learn so much about these industries and see how we get to help them with their storytelling. Or are they the readers in the audience? Are they something that needs to be sold that we can help them with? Where do we get in that? But effectively, that's our whole business is how do we sell ads?
And then in the editorial side, is it mainly curation or do you have like reporters who are doing like original reporting and stuff like that?
We have, over the past 9 months, we've hired a couple more contractors to make our curation better. We want it to be very clear in the right context, picking the right stuff that really matters. And we've launched 2 new podcasts where we see that as a better way of creating original content so that we can interview more and more leaders within the energy and utility world. And we've created short form video content, those become articles on our website. And that flywheel of saying, hey, can we start with interviews? Feels like one of the better ways to get original content ramped up at Energy Central. We have a lot of other ideas that we're hopefully going to get to execute over the next year as well. But the new podcast and the revamped newsletters were stage one.
So for the influencer marketing side, like what are the services you're doing? Like obviously most influencer marketing, like they're just like they're selling sponsorships and then they're taking a commission and stuff like that. Is that mainly what you're doing?
If you boil it down, we represent these creators exclusively. We
Hmm.
are their partner for their advertising revenue, and we take a commission on any deal that we close. And so we're able to create relationships with the biggest tech companies in the world, as well as startups and others. But we've worked with Microsoft and Google and NVIDIA and Qualcomm and Amazon and IBM. And these are companies that are waking up to the fact that they need to engage with creators to continue to keep their brand relevant. And it's more applicable for them to work with these technology and business experts rather than comedians, lifestyle influencers, etc. And so this world of kind of like B2B or professional audience creator marketing is one that we've had a lot of success with over the past couple of years. This is fun. I rarely get to talk about our entire business between Publish and Energy and this. So I'm really enjoying the different parts of it. But at the end of the day, it's a talent management firm for knowledge creators that we take a commission on.
And what's your criteria for working with a creator?
We are looking for creators that have certainly found their content market fit. It doesn't need to have, they don't need to have millions of subscribers or views, but if they've been consistent and they've found a true audience that recognizes them as an expert and a leader in the area that they're focusing on, we're super interested in working with them. Uh, Knowledge is a wide word. The way we apply it is, do you have a professional audience? And that can be professional designers, professionals in cybersecurity, and whatever it might be. Somebody asked me recently, like, a cooking influencer teaches you how to cook. And I was like, you're right, they're sharing knowledge, but that might not be our zone of excellence. So between having that content market fit, doing it full time, this should be their top priority, and being somebody that speaks to a professional audience for the most part, that allows us to say, hey, let's see if we can be successful for you because we believe we're getting very good at that.
And is it mainly like video creators? Or are you working with like newsletter writers? Like what kind of creators are you working with?
It's almost exclusively video first creators. I think
Mhm.
that's where there's a lot of scale and opportunity for success. I'd say about half of our creators also have newsletters, and maybe a quarter of them also have podcasts on an RSS feed. So a lot of them are diversified, but really we're seeing that there's the most success with people that are more so YouTube and long form first. It allows them to create that really deep relationship with their audience.
Why are there so many agencies for selling sponsorships in like video and podcasts, but there's not a lot of agencies that do it for newsletters?
I think there's a scale and a difference in the type of advertisement. There's something really strong about spending, if somebody's listening to this consistently, they're spending 30 to 45 minutes to an hour a week with you. And so if there was a break in between our conversation and you get to give that host read endorsement and spend 60 seconds talking about a product that's relevant to people that think about media, that's a really powerful and valuable spot. And if it hits the algorithm the right way on YouTube, there's a lot of exposure that can come from that integration. If you're a microchip like Qualcomm, how do you make that exciting? You got to bring some video, you got to bring a friendly face, you got to bring a smiling Jacqueline Dallas, who's one of our creators that works with Qualcomm, into the picture to resonate with the audience. Newsletters, on the other hand, I think are harder to grow. There's no algorithm, and you're getting text. And again, I love the newsletter world. I believe it's super valuable, and you're getting an easier way for somebody to click through to actually get performance on the advertising unit. And you're getting a different type of brand association by having your logo in the picture, but it's not as long, it's not as in-depth, it's not as emotional as the host of the show doing it in the middle of an episode. So I think they're different worlds. And yeah, candidly, again, I like both, but we've seen that there's a larger market for the YouTube integrations right now in the area that we play in than the per newsletter advertisement world.
I just feel like there's so much more there is a ton of engagement with newsletters, and it's like you have so much richer like audience data and stuff like that. Like and you own your audience in a way that you don't for YouTube. And yeah, it can't like it doesn't have the virality, but it has more consistency in terms of audience and I don't know, it's just
I
surprising. I mean,
like
I know
both.
I know there
I like
are
both. Yeah.
yeah, I know there are a few agencies that specialize in newsletters, but like it's definitely nowhere near as vibrant as a space as YouTube. Like I know that like a lot of like t Hollywood talent agencies are getting into the influencer marketing space. Like I think Colin and Samir, they're represented by UTA maybe. Like,
Yeah.
what's that like for you as kind of like a smaller agency to like have kind of like these bigger players like Endeavor and stuff like that, kind of trying to swoop in and take these big creators?
Right now, and my answer can change, but right
Mhm.
now we meet a lot of creators who have never been represented before. And so I feel like those businesses are incredibly good at what they do. The WMEs, the CAAs, UTAs, they're really amazing. I've seen them go to work with other creators, and they're very good at what there's a reason they've been around for so long. Um, but the market is changing, and when they see some of the people that we represent, they go, I didn't even know that type of creator existed. And so they're not exactly looking at it, and the people that we like to work with yet. Maybe they
Mhm.
start paying more attention and competing with us more head on. Right now, candidly, I'm happy to not compete as much and then be able to take over the white space of these newer knowledge creators. Um, it's also a slightly different style. A lot of that DNA, I think, comes from Hollywood, movies, TV shows, celebrity, and we're talking about different things. We're talking about YouTube and newsletters and conferences. It's a different expertise that I think our background in business media from Morning Brew lends us to be a bit more successful and have a different edge. Uh, but it's a big world out there, and I don't know. I'm sure we'll run into them more and more, and hopefully we'll get, if we're still around, you'll know that we're holding our own ground.
So when you look ahead like 3 to 4 years, what part of the business do you hope to be bigger? Like the owned and operated side or the influencer marketing side?
I want more of both. I think we're still so early. We're only a couple years into the business. And I think that we can represent a lot more of these top creators and help them become more and more premium. That the shows they're running, the different products they're offering to their audience are way better and bigger than they are today. I think there's a really high ceiling that we're not close to touching. And right now we have two brands in our brand portfolio, and over the next couple of years, I'd love to get that to 5 to 10 and see if we can find other really dynamic industries that we can go compete in and offer value. And if we can have the portfolio of brands and creators, and we have a really amazing advertising function where brands see us as a great place to reach these highly targeted audiences, I'm really excited by the business value we'll create and the impact on the audiences and how we can help people learn and be engaged in their jobs.
Okay, Josh, those are all the questions I have for you. Where can people find you online?
LinkedIn's best. Find me Josh Kaplan, Smooth Media. You'll see me right there.
All right, well, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.